Hi, today we're working on the machine quilting for our project, Pineapple Pink. Join us right after this and we'll get started. And welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Hi, welcome back. Today we're working on the machine quilting of this project, and this is going to be something that we've not done here on the channel. So I'm excited to get started and have you along for the ride. I've just filled up my bobbin with some pretty pink thread that's going to match the backing of this project. And on the top I've decided to go with just a white thread, because a lot of the top is white. The green has a white dot. The only things that don't have white would be the center dark pink and then the pink in the pineapple. So we're going to be looking at some ways that we can quilt this to really accentuate the design we have and let us go through it pretty quickly. Now this is the warm and white batting in here, and we've got a pink cotton backing, and right now I've got it just kind of loosely pinned with some large quilting straight pins, and we want something that's going to hold it together, but I'm really not interested in doing a lot of quilting, and I'm primarily looking at doing some straight line quilting. So I think what I'm going to do is start off by running a seam right down the center. Now when I get to the pink, I think what I'm going to do is come here across, and then when I just come all the way down right through that seam, and we're going to stitch in the ditch. So let me see if I can find, that should be it, the foot for that. So I'm going to swap out my 1/4 inch foot for my foot to stitch in the ditch, and I want to use a stitch that is going to be larger than normal. So I'm going to stretch this out. I'm going to go all the way, and for me on my machine that's a 5. And I'm going to do just a little sample run here. To see how that looks. And it looks, frankly, a little loose both on the top and the bottom. So what I'm going to do is take the pink off there. I'm going to rethread my machine. It's probably somewhere up here in the top that's causing this, because this thread has been on a while. Making sure it gets down in those presser plates, or tension plates I should say. And one of the things I love, absolutely love about this machine is the needle threader. I used to just hate it when your needle would break and you'd have to thread it again. And I think I'm going to pull out the bobbin. It looks pretty clean down in there. Make sure that it looks like it's wound really well. I just wound this one, and I filled it nice and full. It looks like it's evenly wound too, which is helpful. Let's try this one more time. Now that's much better. Much better. Okay, I think we're going to go with that, because that seam, that stitch on top looks really nice. The one on the bottom looks a little loose. But I think this is just a plain piece of fabric, and this is going to be 2 fabrics, seams and batting. So we'll have a little bit of difference there. I'm just using a regular all-purpose thread for this. My machine is set on a 5.0 length and just the standard width, which for this is 4.5. I don't understand why that is. I think that's if you switch it over with the button to do a zigzag, but we should be good. Okay, let's take this off. And we've got a reasonably new needle here. If we run into problems, we'll change that out. And we're going to start right here in the middle. And actually, I think I'm going to change my mind about that. We're going to start down horizontally in the middle. Just, I think it'll be a little bit easier, and we won't spend quite so much time waiting on me to sew. Now, one of the challenges when you're machine quilting is to wrestle all this fabric into place. So we're going to, I don't know why that's being so difficult. We're going to place that little bar in the middle of that stitch in the ditch seam right on the seam, so that metal goes down in that seam. And we're going to pull our thread. We don't want it to get caught up in there, so we're going to pull it to the back, and we're going to start just a little bit off and then pull it in, and I think that'll be fine on this. I did press the backing before I pinned it on, and I was very careful to make sure that we had a little bit extra on all ends. Not near as much as I would if we were densely quilting this, because we're not going to densely quilt this. And let's get going. Now, this is not working. Let me just tell you that right now. It doesn't feel like it's pulling it through, and the stitches are way too tiny. Hi, I see you're back. Now, we ran into some problems with this, and it looks like the problem is with the fabric feeding through the machine properly. And I was thinking that with this being a relatively thin quilt and a small project, we would be able to do it simply by running it through the machine. But that's not the case, at least not today. So what I've done, and look what I've done. I've missed a crucial step there, trying to hurry. I have located my walking foot and put that on the machine. Now I've done it the right way. And with a walking foot, if you've never used that before, it does have a little arm that needs to go over the screw that attaches the needle to the machine, and that allows it to go up and down, and that causes the motion that pulls it through the machine. Now, if you notice on mine, I've taken the cover off of my walking foot because it just made a horrific noise when it would sew through and kept tapping on that. That stitch looks great. I mean, it's big, it's even, the top matches the bottom. That looks great. So I think we figured out what the problem is. So oh, and here's the cover, by the way, for it. We're going to try this now. Make sure it's all smooth, since we've had to put it in and take it out a couple of times. Okay, we're going to try this, and we're going to do just like before. We're going to line it up just outside the colored fabric, and put it down and give it a go. So let's see if this works. We're off. it's looking good so far. I'm going to fold this a little more neatly. Got a little pucker there as we come to the middle. So we take our pin out and we ease it down. I'm going to slow my machine down a little bit. You can still hear how this machine makes a little bit more noise with this walking foot. Can you imagine what it was like when that cover was on it? Okay, let's see what it looks like. That looks great. All of our stitches look like they're pretty much even. We've got some threads in there. It's in the ditch pretty well. There's a couple of times it peeks out a little bit. I'm not the best at sewing straight lines, but if you can see that right here, you can see. And on the back side, because we used a matching thread, you can't really see it, but you can see the indentation that it makes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that here, and then I'm going to go ahead and do it right on the edge as well. And that will keep these blocks in place, and then I can stitch down the middle and then along the very end. Now, once that's done, we've got it hooked, the layers together. So anything beyond that is going to be purely decorative. And I think that what I'm going to do is maybe accentuate some of the places a little bit. I think I'm going to sew right around the outside of the dark pink blocks, just on the outside, not on the inside, because I don't want the white thread to show up in the pink dots. I tell you what, let me change my mind just like that. Instead of sewing around the pink, I'm going to sew around the white block outside of it. And that way I don't run the risk of sewing in the pink. And it kind of puts that square on point, and that'll be even more dramatic. And then I'll do that for these blocks, in the 3 blocks in the center as well. And then if we add some more, we'll do some more. It's going to be minimally quilted, just enough to keep the batting from bunching, and we want it to lay flat without a whole lot of unevenness on it. But wow, that was easy once we figured out what the secret was, right? And I have used this walking foot before. I just honestly didn't think we would need it with this, but it's amazing how much of a difference it made. So we're well on our way to quilting this. I'm going to run through and do the rest of the quilting. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and check out the playlist for this project. We'll see you next time here at the Shamrock Quilt Studio.